Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Township of Georgian Bay on Monday, June 2nd, 2025. And I'd like to call this council meeting to order at 9 a.m. And in the spirit of reconciliation, we wish to acknowledge the enduring relationship between Indigenous peoples and the territories they have traditionally occupied. We recognize and deeply appreciate the historic connection they have to this place, the land, the water, the sky, and all that live on, in, and above it. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this place and who continue to care for it. And we want to show our respect. Hundreds of years after the first treaties were signed, they remain relevant today. May they guide our decisions and our actions. We commit to learn, to educate, to honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation. Miigwech. This morning we have regrets from Councillor Bocek and certainly our condolences to him. Losing your mother can never be easy. And Councillor Graziano, I believe, has said he would be trying to join us a little later because I don't see him on screen at this point. But I'm going to ask the remaining councillors whether they have any declaration of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest or anything else they think we should know before we begin the meeting. All right. Seeing none, I'm going to go to our delegation, and I see we have present Ms. McGibbon and Ms. Clare from the library, and I'll say over to our library heroes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're just setting up our presentation here, so just give us 1 second and we'll get it on the screen.
While Steph's doing that, good morning, Mayor Kutsiak, Council, Township staff. It's great to see everybody. Looks like Greg has a summer haircut. That's good. As we are just setting up, one of the things that I just wanted to note is most of what you're going to see and hear today is the result of the very hard work of our CEO and our incredible staff. We're so proud to have all of our staff in the branches being local or almost local residents, representing MacTier and Port Severn and Honey Harbor. And they have done just an outstanding job over the last year, taking our libraries to yet another level. So we're really, really proud of them and wanted to thank them personally and have council hear that thank you. We're going to start off, you know, we kind of thought we could just put this slide up and be done with it. You know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if you just have a look at this, you're seeing lots of happy young people of all ages enjoying our library branches and being engaged and learning and much, much more. So we're thrilled to see happy faces like this on a daily basis. I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie to take you through a number of things that we've accomplished and that we've been working on, and we'll probably take maybe 10 minutes and then we'll turn it back over to you. Here you go, Steph.
Thanks, Susan. Karen, you can go to the next slide. Thank you for sharing that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Susan, again for the introduction and the kind words. We have been having a lot of fun at the library, working hard, and we're very excited to share some of what we've done, but also some of what we're going to do for the rest of the year. So to start us off, we'll go over a little bit. You know, I know we are already, it's June 2nd, so we're well into the 2025 season, but a quick overview of some of our noteworthy 2024 achievements just to start us off. As a refresh, we recently completed the annual survey. So this time of year sort of is a good reflection time for libraries, not just us, but across the province. We start to see where we're growing. And for us, I've included some of our key growth areas here. and they include program sessions and attendance continuing to increase. Attendance specifically has increased by 37% when we compare it to 2023. So these are 2024 numbers compared to 2023, even though we're mid-2025. Our library card holders continue to increase. They went up by 8%. Library visits were up. We see it in the branches. They're busier when you come in. You'll see more and more people. And they were up by 11% when we compare them to 2023. And again, our total circulation is up by 6%. Okay, next slide, Karen. And again, a quick summary here of 2024 away from just our sort of numbers. A couple of our key projects. So you may remember we had a new programming and community engagement manager join us. It's hard to believe how time flies, but it's been just over a year now for this position to be filled. And you may have seen her out and about in the community. It's Jody Brissett. She's at various events across the township, but then also at all of our 3 branches. We continue to expand adult programming. So last year we did a big push on additional crafternoons, which was a popular activity, along with regular tech help sessions. And there are various book clubs throughout the township. So we've set up a process to support them better with their needs and bring in books and resources that are helpful to them. We continue to expand our outreach services. Some of the most recent additions include food bank and local school visits. And following the purchase of a set of new laptops from the Ontario Trillium funding, we were able to incorporate more digital literacy into our adult and children's programming. So what this looks like for the library is using laptops to create designs for our Cricut cutter and teaching adults how to use that software, as well as using Scratch programming for children's program sessions. So kids can build their own video games or edit ones that are already online for them to use. We enhanced our dedicated programming space in the Old Honey Harbor branch. This was used for our programming functions throughout the season, and as well, it was accessed by many residents to use quiet workspaces or study spaces while accessing the Wi-Fi and things like our outdoor seating, and just overall created a really welcoming space in that downtown area of Honey Harbor. Okay, next slide. And here we get on to our survey, which was completed and shared by many counselors. So thank you for that. We did reach quite a few people, but I believe Susan may have a few comments she'd like to add on this slide. So I'll open it up to her. Oh, you're muted, Susan.
Sorry about that. This is our second annual survey that we've done since Stephanie took over as CEO. We find it really, really helpful in a number of ways, but most importantly, to get feedback from the residents and ensure that we're creating and putting out to those residents services and programming that they want. So we had a response rate of about 250 residents, which was similar to 2023, so a really good snapshot. Interestingly, this year, 63% of the people that answered the survey were seasonal residents, and that was quite a dramatic sort of flip from our 2023 survey. But I think we're pretty pleased with the first stat that you see there, because over 85% of our community is either satisfied or very satisfied with what we're doing. So hats off again to Steph and the team. Lots of information given for Stephanie and the team on the services that are being used a lot, most used. Interesting, I think, for all of you to see that accessing municipal services at the library branches is quite high on their list. So we continue to make sure that we're offering that sort of thing and assist the township in any way that we can. And then lots of ideas for the team on other things that they would like to see us do or put in place. A lot of discussion and a lot of comments about our little Port Severn branch. That's like the little the little train that could. We all know it's too small and we have limitations on what we can do there, and that was loud and clear in the survey. So there's lots more data. If anyone's interested in seeing the survey, we're happy to share all the results with you, but a good snapshot. And we'll go to the next slide. And I won't read all of these, but we asked a number of questions in terms of, what do they value most about the library? And, we just couldn't be more proud of the kinds of feedback that's coming back, a place for the community to come together, how accessible it is, how open-minded it is. It's a hub for learning. It's friendly, inviting, and welcoming. Interesting to see, obviously, a boomer of some kind saying, I grew up with it, my kids grew up with it, and my grandchildren are now going. It's a wonderful atmosphere, encourages learning, and it's a safe place. And the library is the anchor of the community. So we were really just happy to see that last quote, because that's really our goal, is to make the library branches a community hubs. Over to you, Steph. Next slide.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so it was, we did a quick wrap up of 2024, and we are on to 2025, which has been a busy year already. We've been able to complete some of our projects for the year. So some of the key points so far, just a quick review. We've started to provide homebound support to our residents at a community living in Port Severn there. This actually, just a quick footnote, this actually came out of an organic conversation from an event at the library at the end of the sort of tail end of the 2024 season. So it's kind of nice to see this come full circle. People were in the branch for a regular sort of event activity, and we were able to make that connection just through natural conversations, meeting with residents, hearing their needs, and we were able to put something together quite quick in order to provide books to these residents who are otherwise, they have a barrier of transportation to get in and out of the branches easily. So by doing this, we can provide those literacy learning tools, regardless of the transportation situation. So it's a small sort of piece, but it, I think, provides a really great example of how we can listen and be nimble and provide these supports as they come up. Staff continue to engage in learning opportunities. We have a few staff actually enrolled in the Ontario Library Service Excel program. This is a province-wide program focusing on library foundations and resources. It's a great development tool for our staff, and they're, as they continue through the studies, they become more and more engaged, which is just great for the organization and township overall. And we've also been in attendance to a few provincially organized conferences. The Ontario Library Association organizes a super conference every year, and coming up, they'll be organizing a Library as a Place conference. So staff will be in attendance at both of those. We completed the library followed the township's review, and we've completed our pay equity review to ensure that we're following legislation. And then earlier this year, we started the work of a strategic assessment, which will be key as we continue to grow and change as a community. We work towards wrapping up the assessment and are excited to share the report and results while working towards next steps. And I'm not sure how many people are familiar with this. This is a library lingo thing that we just love to typically call it an ILO, but for the sake of awareness, it's an interlibrary loan program, and it's a very popular service offered by rural libraries across the province. And specifically for us, we use this to bring in books that we wouldn't have in our collection otherwise. So a book may not be available at any one of our branches. We can bring it in from a library anywhere across the province so that our residents can access this. This is a popular service. All libraries access this, but it's been a little bit sluggish with the software on the back end. And we've recently transitioned to a more sort of modern, efficient program, and we're able to have an easier access sort of usage for our patrons as well as staff. And it's just really been speeding up the service, which, again, a small piece, but a larger piece of the puzzle. And lastly, I've been working closely with the Deputy Fire Chief to ensure our library fire safety plans and training are all up to date for each of our locations. Okay, next slide, Karen. And here we have one of our favorite slides, just a nice visual demonstration of some of the various activities happening at the library. You can see programs for all ages, all different times of year. Just a nice visual of sort of the activity that's been happening and been flowing through each location.
I think what's great to see here is the diversity of the type of programming that Stephanie and the team have started to deliver to our residents. And this is just a small snapshot. This is very broad, very deep, lots of fun, lots of serious topics as well, lots of ways to learn, and also designed for all kinds of different age groups. So I don't think we wouldn't have been able to show you a slide like this 3 or 4 years ago. So this is a really great step forward in providing the types of programming that our residents are interested in, and they're showing up, which is great.
Okay, next slide. So we're getting ready for our busy summer season, which is very exciting. I can already feel the energy in the branches is already, increasing. But we've been lucky enough to already hold some local author visits with Bruce Hansen. So these were coordinated to support our local public schools in Honey Harbor as well as MacTier. The feedback has been quite positive, and it's been really nice to hear from the teachers excited about sort of alternate learning opportunities and these supplemental pieces that we can also provide for them. We are launching our Paddles and Pages program in partnership with Georgian Bay Fire and Emergency Services. You may have heard us chat about this briefly. It's been building throughout the year, sort of figuring out the logistics, but the service works directly with cottage associations or hard to reach remote areas of the township to coordinate visits from the library as well as fire and emergency services together on the same date and time. These visits will provide library services and programs, pop-up activities, as well as access to, some of the municipal services like burn permits, as well as that public education piece from Georgian Bay Fire and Emergency Services, which we're looking to start very soon as cottagers make their way back, and we're looking forward to see how it goes. And of course, as always, sort of pivot as needed. We continue to enhance adult programming. Specifically this summer, we have a few planned already, things like more crafternoons, walking clubs. We have a sound bath planned. There's yoga, cheese and charcuterie with a local business owner, bird banding with the Georgian Bay Land Trust. So lots of fun things coming up. As well, our community partnerships continue to grow through these organic conversations that I was talking about earlier, the Community Living South Muskoka, Cottage Associations, Port Severn Food Bank, and then recently we've been put in touch with residents coordinating the Repair Cafe. So we're looking at ways that we can work together and support those community initiatives. And then a program that continues to return is our Remote Summer Reading Club. This provides access to the Summer Reading Club program for water access residents, and it is popular, especially with some of the campers across the township. Okay, and next slide. Thank you. We were excited to hear that we were successful in obtaining summer student funding, as well as a generous donation from the Muskoka Community Foundation's grant. This grant will fund books for book prizes for our summer reading club. So it allows children to, encourages them to read books from the library while helping them build their own collection of books and inspiring that sort of curiosity for reading. We have 2 library summer students this year. You will start to see them across the township. They'll be out and about very soon. They'll be assisting with program facilitation throughout the summer, as well as outreach visits. So we already have a few of these scheduled and are looking forward to seeing everybody. Our Canada Day long weekend book sale and community event will be running again. So be sure to stop by. It'll be at the park location in Honey Harbor on Saturday, June 28th from 10 to 2 p.m. We'll have our book sale. We'll have library activities for families. We have community vendors. We're just looking forward, hoping for some nice weather this year. We had a little bit of a gray day last year, so we're thinking we'll get lucky this year with a nice sunny day. And then following the logo design, we will be rolling out the brand this year. It was a little bit slower than anticipated, but we're looking forward to it either way to share that with the community. And our seasonal hours, lastly, our seasonal hours have begun. So please come by and visit one of our locations. We are open for extended hours and getting ready to, launch the summer programming and see everybody out in the community. Okay, Karen, next slide.
So just to wrap up, again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I don't think we could have shown this slide with this many residents that are basically 40 plus into their 70s. This is a huge step forward for the community in bringing the moms and the dads to the branches, as well as lots of seniors, grandparents, families are coming together. It's really, this group of pictures is really remarkable. And we're really thrilled to see that we're now bringing all ages into all of our branches. And we'll just leave you with a few final comments that came from our survey. The library is providing a wide range of resources for all age groups in a welcoming environment. It's a community resource that supports all residents. It's a service to families that do not have what they need to educate or relax. It's a staple in the community. It's a friendly and safe place to go. And it's a community center for everyone and a place to learn. And I think I can say on behalf of the board, we're pretty proud to have had that kind of feedback given to us from residents, and we're excited to keep doing it.
Very much so. Thank you, Susan.
Does anyone have any questions?
Well, thank you very much for that. Greatly appreciate it. And I agree that the all too few times that I drop in any of the libraries, I always find very welcoming, wonderful places to go, and wonderful people in those libraries. So I thank you for that, and all the growth of services that you've been able to provide over the last few years. And I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Pedco, please.
Thank you, and through your worship, thank you for the presentation. It's always great to see what our libraries are doing and how integral they are in our towns and for our seasonal residents. The one question I have, and it's just a very small question, is about the book sale that you've got coming up. I do know that there's a lot of people, and I know you reach out to the cottage associations and other associations, but I have been seeing people posting that they've got tubs of books that they're trying to get rid of at their cottage because they accumulate. For your book sale, how are you collecting donations and reaching out for donations? Because I think the cottage associations could probably extend that campaign for you in the weeks up to July 1st.
That's a very good question. Thank you. We often have people approach us asking if we'll take donations. So to be quite honest with you, it's never crossed my mind to share that we do accept. We have it on our website, but it's a piece of communication that hasn't really crossed my mind before. So it's something that now I will slot in with our sort of regular communication with them. Thank you for that. That's something that I would not have been aware of otherwise. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks again for the great presentation.
Thank you.
A couple of years ago, I asked Ms. Clare whether she wanted some of my extra books, and she said she had more than enough already.
We do have parameters. I will add, before libraries are known to receive quite a few boxes of books that maybe should be directed elsewhere. However, I do know in our community we have quite a bit of avid readers who sort of read and then pass on to us, which is very appreciated. And I'll include that going forward.
Council, any other comments? Well, I'm going to say thank you again very much for your presentation. It's greatly appreciated, and all the work that you're doing for our community. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We enjoy doing it.
Right. That's even better.
Ah. All right. Have a good meeting. Thanks for having us.
Bye, everyone.
Council, next on our agenda is the consent agenda. We have, I think it's 11 items, and I'm going to ask council if there's any items that they would like to have pulled for discussion. Councillor Hazelton. Okay, being the monthly department highlights. All right. I being the quarterly financial results. And I also want to pull one item, and that is part of G, Special Committee of the Whole of May 7th. Any other? Do I have one more too? Okay, yes, and I do have also one item I want to ask about on H. So we got G, H, I, and K we're going to talk about. All right, see none other. Shall we do it in the order, alphabetical order? Okay, we'll do alphabetical order. So the first one, the first two, I guess, are mine. And I want to pull item 6G, Special Committee of the Whole, and that was with it includes a motion that basically it's from the Committee of the Whole to recommend to Council that staff be directed to present reports to the Committee of the Whole first, when possible, permitting time for residents to provide comments and feedback in advance of consideration. And I wanted to make sure that Council understood what I see as the consequence of that if we approve that, and that is that much of our agenda that now shows up under Council will show up under Committee of the Whole, which means that everything that we're doing will be delayed a month, because we'll discuss it at Committee of the Whole, and then the Committee of the Whole makes recommendations to Council, and the Council then a month later, if their memory's working, will approve it or will rediscuss it. And so I just wanted to make sure we understood that what I see as the consequence of that particular item, if we approve it, is that basically, and it also will mean, by the way, that our Committee of the Whole will end up becoming twice as long and our council meetings half as long as they are now. It'll be a restructuring, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying I want to make sure the council understood the consequences, because I think it's actually adding extra steps to the work we're doing that in many cases won't assist us in making better decisions. Councillor Cooper.
I'd just like to say that I think there may be some benefits from this, which is that there'll be more discussion, more open discussion at the Committee of the Whole to then bring something forward to Council. And while it slows something down by a month, getting her done, just getting it done, isn't necessarily the best. In other words, full discussion and understanding by Council and our constituents can come out of the benefits of having something in front of the Committee of the Whole. So I support this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fredko.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I think maybe I hear what you're saying, and I don't think the intent was to necessarily slow things down, but to make things more transparent, to ensure we have community input. And I think that the intent primarily is for things like bylaws and policy changes, and not necessarily reports of the day, like financial reports and requests for going to an RFP and that sort of report. And maybe we can tighten the wording a little bit to change it from where feasible to for bylaws and policies where feasible. So it's not everything that staff needs to bring to us, because I don't think they need to bring to Committee of the Whole a request for buying a snowplow necessarily, because it's more of a financial council decision than a community engagement decision. Thank you.
I mean, and I think that is exactly my concern, is that now we know that staff bring reports to Committee of the Whole when they believe that there should be, or expect that there will be more thorough discussion than, you know, I mean, like for instance, I'm looking at our staff reports list for our council meeting of today, and there are 5 items. And I know on one of those items, we've received correspondence from the public, and therefore we know that members of the public are paying attention to our agenda and commenting where they feel it's worthwhile. And I also know that any items that we have on our council agenda, if we feel that we're not prepared to make a decision because we have not received enough input or information, what have you, we can always refer or defer them, and which we have done on occasion. But you know, I'm thinking some of these, you know, some of these reports, like we have an opportunity to discuss them in council, and bringing them, and I don't think bringing them to Committee of the Whole and having a discussion in Committee of the Whole versus council is gaining us anything in those particular cases. And I'd like, personally, I'd rather leave it up to staff and their discussion, and staff sometimes discuss items with individual councillors before they get on the agenda, and if they sense that there's going to be more thorough discussion, then they would put it on committee of the whole. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I see Councillors Jarvis and Hazelton have put their hands up. Councillor Jarvis.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, you put into words what I was thinking. So I'm finding myself in line with Councillor Predko in that we want to provide a good level of transparency to our community. At the same time, there's certain items that really come straight to council anyway. That's just a matter of the process. And I'm wondering if council would be agreeable to, for the time being anyway, to attempt to see if we can have staff determine which ones would require the additional discussion at Cal versus coming straight to council. And I'd be happy to leave it in staff's hands, at least for a little while, see how that goes.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelton.
So I agree with the general intent of what Councillor Predko said. I would like to offer, though, that Mayor, you have already articulated that we have one item on our council agenda that probably should require more consideration than we might normally have in council and be more open and transparent. I think so those are the words that Councillor Predko used. I didn't. So I just heard Councillor Jarvis say leave it up to staff, but staff didn't bring that to committee of the whole. They brought it to council, and I think that there is a need on some of these topics to be more open and transparent to the community. We're going to find out later that there is knowledge in the community that the staff didn't have or didn't appear to have, and so I think that the intent of this was, as Councillor Predko suggested, open and transparent, but not to slow things down. And I don't know, maybe there's another mechanism we can use. Presumably the agendas are to be published 5 business days before the meeting. Perhaps it should be that if public comments come in on an agenda item for council, that as with today's meeting, things were rearranged out of committee of the whole into council. Things could be rearranged out of council into committee of the whole to facilitate a more open and transparent discussion. So I think that there needs to be a recognition of some of the desires of the community to be more involved, and for councillors to be able to have more open and free dialogue on these matters. And I think that our processes should be able to reflect that. Thank you.
I'm going to take, I mean, a number of you have suggested that if I can interpret our COW meeting, our committee of the whole meetings are more open and more transparent than our council meetings. I think I have real difficulty with that concept. I think in our committee of the whole, we sometimes have had more lengthy discussions, or in committee of the whole, we've also had what I would call more preliminary discussions. In other words, something's come in front of committee of the whole for discussion before staff makes any recommendation in some cases, or what's put in front of committee of the whole is a draft because we know it's going to be a longer procedure. But I would argue that whether it's in front of committee of the whole or in front of council, it's still open and transparent. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in summary, from my perspective, what I'm hearing from the other councillors is, you know, the more open and transparent process. I guess the benefit of having certain matters on COW, I realize it slows things down, but on the other hand, it provides for that transparency. It provides for people to give input, as opposed to something coming to council and then getting passed at council. That's where it goes off the rails a bit, as far as I'm concerned. I think COW provides sober, in effect, sober second thought. It's really sober first thought and then subsequently over to council. So I think we need that. And as far as what belongs there, I think our staff could make some suggestions, but maybe from our councillors as well, because they're hearing from their constituents, and we could say that one should be in Cal for full discussion. So that's another way of making sure that we get that sort of opportunity for both council to mull these over very carefully and for the public to express themselves fully. So I support some more open and transparent approach to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Predko, and then I'm going to go to Clerk White.
Thank you. I was just going to comment on, we're using the word open and transparent. And I don't mean to imply that council is not open and transparent, but I do think what I was trying to express through that terminology was that we have an opportunity, an extra opportunity for members of the public to participate and to hear before council makes a decision. And that's where I think the openness is trying to be expressed. And I don't think we're trying to rush anything through, but I think it's just for some matters, we do have opportunities for community to listen to the development of some of these policies or bylaws. And I think just having some extra, an extra meeting may be useful so that we're not pushing something through and then hearing after the fact that there was some information that we maybe should have included. That's all. Thank you.
Clerk White.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to give a logistical perspective on this. Staff are supportive to take this in either direction. We're happy if it means more reports going to Cal first versus council, that's fine. But that does mean that the Cal agenda will be larger and therefore take more time, which means it will not fit on an afternoon anymore. So planning council and council will then have to be merged onto likely Monday, and then Cal will be on the Tuesday for the whole day. So logistically, there's a lot of work in the back end for clerks to manage this and make all of these changes. I just want to make sure that that's the clear direction, so we don't go do this and then do it for a month and then have to switch back is my only concern, just so there's some understanding of that.
Yeah, and I think what I find interesting in this conversation is the excuse me, the motion as it currently reads says that staff be directed to present reports to the committee of the whole first when possible. It doesn't say when advisable or when recommended or something. No, it's just when possible, which means probably almost everything on our agenda today could have gone to Cal, and I'm not sure that that is the most effective use of our council time when we're going to discuss an item like the an asset management plan update at Cal, and then the following month receive the report officially. To me, anyway, I would like to see this item reworded if the will of council is to leave it as is. Then that's I have to respect that. But I think the current wording, when it says first when possible, means almost everything is going to Cal first, because almost always it will be possible unless there's a real tight deadline for one reason or another. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I'd be open to a reconsideration in effect, and so a rewording of it would be fine by me. I'm finding myself quite a bit in agreement with Councillors Hazelton and Predko with regards to just allowing some items, and I don't mean all items, and then there's an item on the agenda today, so I've been pointed out, looks like it's going to require a little bit more discussion. I don't know what the implications of that are or will be, but allowing for, as Councillor Cooper suggested, sober first thought, I suppose sober second thought, since we don't have a Senate, probably be, and that's probably a good thing too, is not a bad idea. It needs, if information is coming forward at a Cal meeting that helps us to better consider specific motions or staff reports, I think it's really, really important that we do that. I don't know how we disseminate what we consider a cow versus council. I do not want to see a cow meeting going on for 3 days prior to a council meeting, but maybe that'll reduce our council meeting time. I don't know.
As long as everyone has 1 month long memory, it could reduce our council meeting, length of our council meeting. Councillor Cooper.
Be very brief. I just wanted to sort of maybe rephrase the term sober first or second thought. As long as it's sober, that's a good start. But I would like to say that it does allow, having these matters at COW allows council to discuss and digest information and not make a decision on the spot. You have time to digest it and come back to council a month later with more thoughts, maybe hear from the community. Those are all big benefits as far as I'm concerned. Should it be every matter? No, I don't think so at all. So I think we need to deal with that as to how do we filter the ones that are requiring a lot of careful consideration as opposed to other things that not that we wouldn't carefully consider them, but they can be decided fairly quickly at council. So how do we get there? I don't know, but that's what I would support. Thank you.
Right. So drawing this to a close, right now this motion is in front of, included in our consent agenda with the wording when possible. And I don't know if anybody wants to recommend a variation to that, or we just call the vote with it as is. Councillor Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. I'm wondering if we have an opportunity when an item is on the agenda for us to refer it to committee of the whole rather than engage in discussion at council. And if we recognize that this is something that needs more community involvement or more information, we do refer things back to staff. Perhaps we can just have a procedure to move things to committee of the whole for the next discussion and take it off that agenda from council.
We always have that option.
Yeah. We realize that, but maybe we need to be cognizant of and use that more regularly.
Councillor Hazelton.
I like what Councillor Predko just suggested, and again, a question for our clerk. Given that council is on Monday, committee of the whole is on Tuesday, and that all the materials appropriate for a council discussion would be there on the Monday. Can we, as was done with one of these items, shift it from council to committee of the whole so that it falls off the agenda Monday and falls into the committee of the whole on Tuesday, and that potentially would solve the issue. Obviously timing is an issue to consider, but frequently we have time to do these things. So is that something that the clerk's department would be okay with?
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we can do that. I would like that to be the clear procedures within the procedural bylaw, just so the public understands that that's the process.
All right. Based on all the discussion I am hearing, I personally am reluctant to approve the current motion as it reads. Of course, we can take advantage of this right now and defer this item to the next committee of the whole for further discussion. But also I think that Councillor Hazelton's observation could be a practical one in the sense that if we during council have an item that we figured should have right now staff is picking certain items to go to committee of the whole because they want more discussion from council. But if we have the option on our Monday council meeting to take an item, if we feel it's appropriate for further discussion, move it to the committee of the whole either the next day or the next month, then to me that would satisfy the intent of this item. So Now, what do we do with this item? Did I hear it? Chuck it? Do we set this aside for now and approve the consent agenda with this particular item excluded? Okay, I'm seeing enough head nods. So can we modify the motion for consent to say excluding this particular item? Okay. We had a good discussion on that, and it was even in the council. The next item we wanted to pull for discussion was the MacTier Advisory Committee, and I just had a simple question for that one. And that was, we had a motion that be it resolved that council, that a yoga program by certified instructor Barb McDonald to be provided in July 2025 and the amount of $450 be subsidized. And my only question was, where's the $450 coming from? Because normally when we approve funding, we say where it's coming from. And I don't know if Ms. Radican, our treasurer, would have a recommendation, and we just add that to that motion if council wants to approve that motion.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Coutier. I would recommend it coming from just the regular operating budget at this point in time.
And council, would you be open to me adding those words to that motion? Okay. What did she say, operating budget? Okay, so those are my two items. Quarterly financial results. Who was that you? So that was you? Councillor Jarvis, can you talk to us about the quarterly financial results?
No, I can't. I'm not an accountant, so I'm not going near that. I just have a quick question with regards to investments. In our operating summary, obviously, and there's a comment in the notes as well about the significant investment and interest income difference on the financials. I understand the reasoning for that. Financial markets are all over the place, and I think we all understand that. Is there a way, or should we be reconsidering that part of the budget to allow for perhaps, and this is a reconsideration of that of what we set aside in the budget?
Dr. Radigan.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Coutier, to Councillor Jarvis. A reconsideration in the budget, I don't believe is necessarily possible at this time, since final tax bills are being mailed out as we speak. The only real option right now, we are looking at the prudent investment standard. So I would recommend looking in that direction. At this point in time, it's really difficult to predict what the remainder of the year is going to do in terms of, let's say, tariffs or the economy. So it's really an estimate at this point in time.
Thank you. Just further, I know that we got further discussions on how our investments are going to be handled, and I appreciate that. And yes, if you guys are any better than anybody else at predicting what was going on, I'd give you my money to invest as well. So I'm happy. I just wanted to bring to our attention because it is a significant difference, not unexpected, but it is significant. Thank you.
Thank you. I know in my many years of preparing budgets, I always try to emphasize to various people, budgets are estimates. Yeah, every line, every item, almost is it. Other than maybe those contracts you signed to say there are monthly payments every month of X or Y, the budgets are estimates, and just like we can't predict the weather, or how much we're going to have to spend on clearing snow or brush or what have you. Anyway, thank you for that. And Councillor Hazelton, monthly department highlights. You had a comment or question with regard to that.
Thank you. I've got a couple, and sadly, because I can't read the page numbers on the individual reports, I have to go to the whole package. So I'm at page 106 of 249. This is a cow resolution of 2023-002, which was hybrid meetings attendance, council remuneration review. And back in February of 25, it talked about dealing with a travel allowance, and I was just wondering when that item would likely be coming back for us to consider.
Through your worship, I'm hoping July at this point. It has taken a bit more time to gather all of the stats and comparables and getting responses back from other municipalities, and all of this information is readily available on their website for us to locate.
Okay, thank you. Scrolling down a page or two, we've got Planning Council, P 2024-057, municipal road on private land policy. Given that we had several of these things come forward, we had brought a resolution forward, and I'm not sure we have any update on that. Do you have? Clerk Wade. Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because it said, okay, fine. Timelines?
I don't have a current estimate for that one at this point.
Okay. Scrolling down to the bottom of the page, council remuneration. It was an item that was, I believe, back in February. The key line in the report said that the report be brought back within 90 days. We're past 90 days, and we just saw the city of Toronto get a 35% raise. So I'm just wondering, where's the money? Sorry. I'll just leave it up to you to bring it back.
Yeah. I think our MPPs got a significant raise as well recently.
Oh, I know, everybody's getting more money, and
But
our postal guys don't want to be mediated because they know they're going to get a rotten deal from what they really want. So I tell you, it's a crazy life.
But
okay,
do you believe most of your residents would like you to be making significantly more?
yes,
Then I think
absolutely.
Then I would recommend you bring a motion forward to that extent.
Every time I talk to them, they go, "I don't know how you do this." Okay, several pages down, we have from October 8th, 24, item P 2024-084, floating accommodations, and I just wanted to make a comment that we have received notice that LOTB are moving one of their items, and it's going to be floating around someplace. And I just wanted to know if we are kind of in standby mode, waiting to pounce on it with our new bylaw. I don't know who to direct that to. Tony, there we go. Sorry,
Chief Van Dam.
Chief Van Dam. We've pounced. Pouncing is good. Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. I have a modified consent agenda motion. I moved by Councillor Cooper, second by Councillor Predko. Be it resolved, the council adopts the consent agenda of June 2nd, 2025 as amended to exclude 6G, Special Committee of the Whole, May 7th, 2025 resolution, and to amend 6H, the MacTier Arena Advisory Committee motion, to include to be funded from regular operating budget. Those words will be added to the MAC 2025-010 motion. All those in favor? And I have lots of hands. That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay. No open forum. And now we have an opportunity to hear from our councillors as to what they've been up to. Let's start with Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. And let's just see here if I can find I use a paper calendar. Very exciting. So the last month, of course, a lot of good meetings with both the township and the district, but also individual meetings with a variety of individuals and organizations. I'm not going to get into all of them. I did attend a meeting on the 13th of May with the GBA and their new committee. It's sort of like a working group of sorts, and I think that's going to be very productive. Other than that, 27th of May waterfront meeting with that group, and that was by Zoom. It was very productive as well. I think that's it. Lots going on. Not dull by any means. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelton.
So lots of activities with the community. Call a few items that I'll call out here specifically. Our community of Macy Bay continue to express concerns and interest in what is going on in that property. The township has been on site and present, so that's a good thing. We had a conversation recently, I don't know where it was, but somebody was talking about breaking up beaver dams and letting them flow into the water. And I'm not quite sure whether that's allowed or not allowed, but we had a report in the North Bay of Honey Harbor where a contractor apparently disrupted a beaver dam and it drained into the North Bay of Honey Harbor. Residents were concerned both with contractors' activities, is this allowed or not allowed? Then they also were concerned with water quality. So lots of communications going on that front. I had a call from a marina operator who had concerns with a mess left behind from a recycling lift. And he was quite concerned, and I got pictures of it, thanks to Councillor Bochek. And so I figured, well, I needed to call them anyway, so I called Circular Materials, who look after recycling, and they immediately provided me contacts for GFL so that the marina operator could contact GFL and make the appropriate complaints. He previously had contacted the district, and they apparently didn't really know anything about what was going on because it was recycling and not waste. So all interesting things. However, I wanted to report that Circular Materials stated to me on the phone when I asked, are you going to continue doing these lifts of the recycling bins at the marinas in Honey Harbor after November 2025? Immediately said, yes. I said, oh, that's wonderful news. Could you send me that in writing? It's really important. Silence. Anyways, I will report if I get a copy of it, but just for you to know what that dialogue and exchange was all about. I had the opportunity of yet attending another Muskoka Watershed Council meeting, and they had a guest presenter, Megan McLeod, and she is from DataStream, and she was highlighting the Canada-wide repository for water quality data, and gave me they provided a web link, so I immediately jumped on and looked at it and go, geez, all the data we've got from our township over the last 30 years is not in this publicly available, no-cost repository. So I've already had a brief chat with Kaylee, and we're talking about how to get the data in, both for the inland lakes and for the bay. And apparently this is the organization behind DataStream is a private funded organization, and they provide not only the repository, but also some assistance in getting data in. So I think this is a huge win for us in our community, given all the data we have, but generally not available or accessible. Had a call from a resident on President Island inquiring if this was the year for large item pickup. So I directed him to our CAO, but suggested that wouldn't be a 2025 item, maybe 2026. Don't know if you've connected with him or not. I again this month facilitated a planning working group, and we had some great discussions, but we had a couple of key questions that came out of it. I haven't had a chance to route these off to our clerk's department, but I'll just put them out there and I can follow up later. But the questions were, is there available presentation materials from the Rick O'Connor training sessions? So first of all, do we have them, and where are they, kind of thing? So you don't need to answer that right this second. It's just a question that came out, and we can follow up on that later. And as you'd imagine, now that cottagers are back at their cottages, they're all running around saying, what's happening with the waste program going forward? And of course, there's nothing definitive just yet, so we have to dance around the topic, but that was the excitement for May. Thank you.
Thank you. With Councillors Graziano and Bochek absent, I'm going to go to Councillor Jarvis.
Thank you. The only real activity I've had from constituents, and the mayor's aware of this as well, is to do with garbage, and the Cottagers Association has significant concerns because, as we all know, their only access to garbage is via the marinas. So there's some real concern that's been building there. I know the mayor's been in contact with them as well. So that's been one of the ongoing things from my ward specifically over the last little while. Other than that, of course, we've had library board, got the report from them this morning, and then I've been segment meetings. We have a new executive director there, Marlena De Silva, excuse me, who's taken over from Lisa, who had decided to take some time for herself and her family. It's very much involved when you're with SegBay. SegBay has been doing well with new members joining on a fairly regular basis. They're working hard now on the golf tournament coming up this summer. And that's about the rest. That's all I have to report on my end.
Thank you. Councillor Predko.
Thank you, and through your worship. So a couple of different things. The MacTier Arena Committee, we just went through the consent agenda item with the recommendations from the minutes. And I just did want to discuss very briefly Barb McDonald, who we just approved the $450 for the yoga program. She is looking at this as a sort of a boost to get started. She's hoping she can make this a viable business proposition for herself operating out of the arena without support from the township going forward. And then I think she's been made aware that there are programs in the south end that she's going to try to coordinate with and see what she can do to develop her business better. And I know that she'll be appreciative that the council has given her a little bit of funds to help get started on that. I had a lot of interactions with the community, and I got to have a lot of interactions with the community with our new Director of Operations, Mara Engel, who came out on 3 different visits in the community with me to listen to different concerns and issues that are out in the community. So that was both in MacTier, on Gibson Lake, and on Go Home Lake. So once a week. I don't know where we're going to go in June, but we'll figure something else out. Now that the weather's nice. And then the only other updates, I think Councillor Hazelton had mentioned, we've got a lot of things going on with the district in terms of garbage bins and transition for our services. And yet we don't really have any definitive plans that have come back from the district, and I have asked for some stats on the ambulance and PRU project in MacTier, but I've never received a response. So I will be reaching out to both the mayor and our CAO to see how we can reach out more effectively for information from the district on these matters, because they're important to our community, especially as we go through transition periods. And that's all for me today. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mean to mention that our social media has highlighted a number of things from our township, but one thing that they didn't highlight was there was the mayor's birthday yesterday. Facebook did point that out to me, so I just wanted to wish the mayor the best.
I think that's enough from you. Thank you, I think. Yeah, well, I didn't know that was part of a regular township agenda. Quite a busy month. I'm going to comment. Councillor Hazelton mentioned the contamination in Minnow Bay, end of North Bay. It actually wasn't a beaver dam. It was somebody trenching out to drain an upper lake, and unfortunately, the torrent of rain caused a washout of a stream that fed into Minnow Bay, and so there's a lot of sediment and all that comes in that's encased in all that mud along the shoreline, that including E. coli and other such friendly contaminants. Yeah, that was a lot of conversation. I was actually attending a neighborhood meeting on that this past weekend, which included the property owner. And I know that our bylaw department and other ministries are following up on all that, which I greatly appreciate. Solid waste. I've been in active conversation with a number of different people at the MECP and the MMAH, the provincial ministries, and hoping, they promised they're organizing a meeting in the near future with appropriate people to discuss this matter in the, call it the inconsistencies of enforcement of regulations. And as Councillor Hazelton pointed out, the fact that circular materials is entering into the equation because they're responsible for the collection of materials, which they're currently doing at recycling materials, which they're currently doing at marinas. I also attended on May 8th the Indigenous Leadership Table. I always enjoy those. May 9th, the Honey Harbor Public School Art Awards based on the Honeybee Festival. Finally, we did that, handed out those awards on the May 9th after, I think, at least three or four postponements due to weather. For some reason, they didn't want me to show up when the school was closed. So we did that, and that was great. Working with the Floating Accommodations Group, who have released a position paper, which I think you're all familiar with, and distributed out to my mailing list of 46, 47 heads of council that I've been dealing with over the past few years on this matter. And we'll get that further distributed as we go forward. Then later in the month, the Southern Georgian Bay OPP board met actually in this room. And we were able to keep that discussion going. Had another training session on strong mayors on the 29th. It's amazing how much information is out there for something that most mayors never asked for. But still, you get all sorts of advice on how to do it, including from the province. And I found myself shaking my head a few times in that session, but okay. What else can I tell you? Oh yes, on last week, the Georgian Bay Association, which is an association of 20-odd cottage associations on the east coast of Georgian Bay, had what they call their Champions of the Bay evening, in which they celebrated people along the bay who've done a lot of work to help protect and preserve our Georgian Bay. And I think it was quite good, well done, in the sense that the nominator for each person would explain why they nominated that individual, and then the individual themselves, if they were present, would speak to it. And I'm very pleased that the champion of the Bay turned out to be our own Catherine Davis in the Honey Harbor area in her fight with Phragmites, and how she expanded that program from just being a few volunteers to getting summer students hired, and it's now something Georgian Bay Forever is doing every year. And I'm a little biased because the first summer student hired for that whole program was one of my daughters. And that was a fair number of years ago now, but so I'm so pleased to see her recognized. It's also the past months has included the the passing of a number of local people, which always gives you pause for thought, and I won't go into all that, but I also found myself this past few weeks doing a lot of tree planting at 3 different sites. A couple of them have nothing to do with the township, but nonetheless, you're planting trees, and given that, well, knowing that some people have passed, it somehow just encourages that much longer, broader term perspective on life, and I think it's something that, with all our busyness on a day-to-day basis, that we need to return to thinking about the bigger picture now and then. So anyway, enough from me. Instead of going on, I'm going to pass the baton over to our CEO, Greg Mariotti.
Thank you, Mayor MacTier, and good morning, Council. Really, other than the summary of staff activities that Council has in the package, I just wanted to share a great moment for the township, which is the fact that we are the 2025 CAMA Awards of Excellence winners for under $20,000 under the Environmental Stewardship category. And actually, it's a 3-prong achievement, really, for the township as a whole. One of the prongs, as Council knows, obviously, is the creating the environmental corridor. That was done in partnership with the Georgian Bay Land Trust. The other prong was to return back almost 100 acres of road allowances back to MacTier Point First Nation, so that now they have one contiguous piece of First Nation land rather than have their lands being intersected through with road allowances. And the third prong is staff actually achieved almost $500,000 worth of funding a couple of years ago from the Ministry of Environment to restore around 200 hectares of wetlands from invasive species. And so staff and volunteers work quite hard at that project. So overall, it hits 3 of our 6 strategic pillars. Environmental conservation, working with our Indigenous partners, but also community engagement. So I think as a township, I'm quite proud of this achievement, which is recognized across Canada. And Ms. Way and I were there last week to accept the award. And so I'll leave it at that. A bit of a good news story.
I think it's a wonderful good news story, and I think as you were pointing out, as much as I hugely appreciate the staff contribution, because there's a lot of staff contribution, it also is significant community and working with partner agencies and individual volunteers and many of our residents. And I think that's when we all work together, it's amazing sometimes what we can actually do. We can actually move in the right direction. I think it's fantastic, and congratulations to all involved. Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, I'd just like to add in my congratulations, and I did share a note with Council this morning, but I just think it's important to make sure that we acknowledge that this initiative, I think I'm correct about this initiative started with the executive director of the Georgian Bay Land Trust, and it's spread out into quite a big project and a very successful project. So I hope that we will, in fact, acknowledge all the players that made this happen. Thank you.
Yes, Bill Lougheed and the Georgian Bay Land Trust were definitely behind the corridor project element, and I think that's in conjunction with funding from the federal government on that particular project. And I think we had also numerous land trust volunteers supporting it. So there's been again a great community project to help our community, and for long term. This is a long-term, future generations type of project, which I think is fantastic. I don't know if it's quite the same long-term, but we're going to go to our staff reports and our asset managements, which hopefully are around for at least the medium term. And over to Ms. Wozlenko to give us the asset management plan update.
Thank you, and good morning, Mayor MacTier and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm here to present the proposed updates to our asset management plan, which is a critical tool that ensures the sustainable management of the township's assets. Ontario Regulation 58817 requires municipalities to review and update their asset management plan every 5 years. The Township of Georgian Bay's current asset management plan was approved in 2020 and is due for renewal. While the current plan addresses core and non-core assets, it does not identify the proposed levels of service. Staff are recommending postponing the asset management plan update to allow time to gather updated condition data essential for reliable planning and compliance. With council direction, staff will move forward with the facility condition assessment, which will identify the current condition of township facilities, determine the extent of repairs, replacement, or upgrades needed, and resulting in a detailed inventory of deficiencies, remaining useful life of systems, and associated costs. We'll move forward with a roads needs study, which will be completed in-house by the operations staff, and the implementation of the Town Suites asset management module and an overall asset management update. Finance staff will work in conjunction with the operations staff and consultants for a complete update. This full update is expected to be completed within 1 year. Staff is seeking council's approval to redirect capital funds to the facility condition assessment and to proceed with procuring consultants for both the facility condition assessment and asset management plan. Thank you, and I'm welcome to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I read in your report that when you said that we're a little bit behind with some of this AMP reporting, that we're far from unique. Is that correct? That most municipalities are also struggling with these deadlines?
That is correct.
Makes me feel a little better. Thank you. Council, any questions or discussions with regards to this report? I'm going to read the motion while you're thinking about it. I have moved by Councillor Predko, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved that council directs staff to proceed with a consultant for the asset management plan update for up to $50,000 to be funded from the carry forward budget projects reserve, and the council directs staff to proceed with a facility conditional assessment in the amount of $80,000 to be funded as follows. Relocate capital project funds 2025-OP13 for the MacTier Arena exhaust fan of $8,000, 2025-OP45 Fire Hall 1 Honey Harbor parking lot for $20,000, 2025 OP47 for Fire Hall 2 MacTier parking lot of $15,000 and $37,000 from the operations reserve. Any questions before I call the vote? Councillor Jarvis.
Thank you. And through you, Worship, I really appreciate the report. I think it's nice that we reconsider these situations, and it's brought to us, and it's very, very transparent that we are actually looking at delaying things for very, very good reasons. So I just appreciate seeing this stuff in writing so we know where we're going and why, instead of having down the road excuses given as to why things weren't done. So hitting this ahead of time is a better idea. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Base reclamation and high float service treatment tender results. Director of Operations Engel.
Through you, Mayor Kociak, we have worked with the district and used their tendering process to tender ours as well, along with several other townships. Gives us much more purchasing power. I have reviewed the roads that were initially identified for rehabilitation through chip and seal process, and while we don't have funding to do all of them, we have identified the ones that we struggle the most to maintain and meet minimum maintenance standards. And then moving forward, we will, as part of the asset management, be doing a full review and identifying roads that need, with the appropriate surface type based on usage, amount of traffic, weight, heaviness of traffic, and impact of that. So hopefully we can proceed with continuing with the award.
Thank you very much. Councillor Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship, I just want to thank Ms. Engel for bringing the report forward to get today, and just wanted to comment that the surface of Silver Sands Lake Road, I think, is everybody who drives on it agrees that it is not really very drivable. I've had residents who have told me that they have had car repairs, suspension and springs that have had to be replaced because of the care of that road, and I'm very grateful for you to bring this report forward today, because I think the gravel resurfacing would have been a temporary fix and not have solved the underlying problem, and I appreciate you taking the steps to try to stretch the dollars a little bit farther and get to something that is going to be a long-term solution for these residents. And so my only other question is probably a completely different conversation, but 12 Mile Bay Road is not on your list, and I know that the district has committed to some maintenance on the road. I'm just wondering if there's any kind of update you could provide on 12 Mile Bay Road, and if that is at all involved in our budget, and chip and seal, or how we can get more attention on that road as well. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Courtier. It is a district road, so while we can strongly encourage them to do work, it is up to the district. It has been identified for portions of it to be upgraded and resurfaced this year, and hopefully that will continue on to next year. And we will continue to strongly encourage them to put some dollars into that road.
I can tell you that the district is planning work on that road. The tender has been awarded, and I think this week they're dealing with the Fowler Construction as to the scheduling. So hopefully we can release some public information. The district can release public shortly, but it's definitely there.
No, that's great. Great news. I did talk to one resident from 12 Mile Bay area who had said that they had heard that the scheduled work was postponed this year until next year. So that was one of the concerns that I was kind of living with. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Councillor Cooper.
Just briefly on the 12 Mile Bay Road, it's been on the radar for a number of years. It's only the light is getting brighter and brighter in terms of concern. But yes, there will be some repairs this year, but it's still a situation where it's sort of, small repairs are not necessarily lasting repairs. And what really needs to happen is the road needs to be resurfaced properly, and that is getting attention at the district, but I wouldn't say that is my understanding, Mayor, that we haven't necessarily got exactly where we need to be at the moment. Thank you.
No, they are definitely not planning to rebuild the road, and in some cases they should be rebuilding the road all the way through to redoing the base, but they do plan on replacing. As opposed to just filling potholes, replacing the surface in significant stretches, they tell me. And those repairs, some of those repairs that they did a couple of years ago have lasted reasonably well in the short run. But no, eventually that road has to be rebuilt. There's no question. I have moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved that the tender for the completion of base reclamation and high float surface treatment be awarded to Fowler Construction for $1,257,881 plus HST, and that the additional funds in the amount of $31,249 be reallocated from the capital gravel roads budget, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the resulting agreement. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Honeybee Festival potential funding for 2025. Ms. Walton, please. Or is it time for us to take a break then? Oh, there's Ms. Walton. No, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll do it a little bit early because we're getting well through this agenda. We'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll get back to the rest of the staff reports. Thank you. All right, thank you very much, everyone. We're not like to reconvene this meeting, and our next report is the Honeybee Festival Potential Funding for 2025, and I have the names of Ms. Walton and Ms. Schneier. I'm not sure who will be presenting this report.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Just very quickly, there is a change in funding that the municipality is now allowed to access Northern Ontario Heritage Fund funding. We do need to apply 120 days in advance of the event, but they do have some event funding that will assist with marketing and promotion, and we would just like to access it. But Your Worship, we do need a resolution from council. Since this is a municipal event of significance, it is coming forward to you today just to confirm that a resolution would be possible from you to support the application.
All right, thank you very much. Council, any questions or comments on this report? Councillor Cooper.
Just trying to understand what was just stated about funding. So do I take it we would be applying for portion of funding this year, and then next year there would be a different sort of approach, a higher amount that we'd be going after? I want to understand that.
I think my colleague Tricia, through you, Your Worship, I apologize. My colleague Tricia might be able to speak to that better. I believe it's a one-year application, but Ms. Walton?
Yes, through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Cooper. The NOHFC fund is $15,000 for this year. We can apply each year. We can apply multiple times for different events. It is new funding, and they're just working out the kinks to being able to offer it here in Muskoka. So we want to be one of the first ones to apply. We do have a bit of money already put aside for the Honeybee Festival as given to us by our budget. So I think that this would help offset some of that as well.
So just to clarify, Mayor, if I may, then, so it's the first time funding, and I guess you did say that. I just wanted to make sure that it's not, because it's sort of on us now, in next year we would have quite a bit more time to build our case and perhaps come forward with even greater funding, et cetera, et cetera. Is that correct?
Through you, Your Worship, the event stream funding is a maximum of $15,000 no matter what. Oh. For other parts of community development, they have much higher streams. So we are looking into those as well to offer to the community and to work through with council, and those will come later. But this year at this time, yes, we just found out about it literally 2 weeks ago. We've been kind of like getting the ideas together and coming to you with that. So finding out about it and getting to here, we've been working under 2 weeks, and I think we're doing all right. And then we can apply, so with the NOHFC funding, we can apply at any time. It's not like here it's open and now it closes February 3rd. We can apply continuously for different things. Whether we get it or not, if we did multiple applications, is a different story. But again, to answer your question there, we can definitely work on a better plan for next year, as it'll be open again next year or open again for the next time we decide to do something. We do have this availability now with the NOHFC funding.
So, Mayor, if I may just briefly, then what it amounts to is you may be even able to apply for extra funding for Councillor Havelston's increase in remuneration.
Yeah,
possible. That's a different funding stream.
Just kidding.
Councillor Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. Just a quick question to our Sustainability Department, and just to confirm, this is up to $15,000 in addition to what you were already anticipating on spending, and we had a small budget, I think Ms. Watson just mentioned, for this purpose, but this isn't removing funds that we would normally be spending. This is addition. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to observe that the province is now considers the Muskoka area as part of Northern Ontario, whereas before it's part of Eastern Ontario, and therefore we're sourcing a different funding source. Ms. Schneier.
Through your worship to Councillor Predko, just to clarify, one of the biggest struggles that we've had with this particular event is the date change. It was supposed to be the last Saturday in September, and then Truth and Reconciliation came upon us, and so then we had to switch it to the first week of October. What we really need to do is get some marketing and promotion that doesn't have a date specific on it so that we can use it. And I think that's really where Ms. Walton is going to put a lot of her effort in, is to make sure that we have non-specific date marketing that we can use year after year if we are so fortunate to be able to get access to these funds.
And so just to confirm though, this is money that would have used from our budget, or is this a new activity that you're going to take advantage of additional funding to do something different?
Through your worship, at this time, although Ms. Walton did allude that it's possible there could be some savings for the municipality, I think at this time, for this first round, we would do it independent of and in addition to the good fortune that council has provided us for this festival, just to be able to get some of these assets secured, and then perhaps in the future we can review that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved that council directs staff to apply for and accept funding from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund up to $15,000 to support marketing and promotion for the Honeybee Festival of 2025. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. License of occupation application for municipal road allowance L25-01, end of Marina Village Drive. Ms. Way.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I may, I just have a quick PowerPoint to go through just so there's no confusion about the location, because I know there's a lot of turns, I guess is the right word I'm looking for Marina Village Drive. The end of the road. So here's an overview of the entire community of Oak Bay, and you can see in the purple circle kind of the general location of where it's going to be, as well as from here you can see all of the surrounding wetlands. And here's just a little bit more close-up of the Marina Village Drive end and that portion of the development. And you can see a little bit closer where the road allowance, I don't know if I want to, it's not technically road allowance, but what would be a road allowance in this circumstance. And here obviously is a close-up where you can see the T intersection where Marina Village Drive comes to an end. And here is an aerial view of that same view. Here is the plans for the turnaround. So this would be a T turnaround design. And here I just wanted to note the ownership pieces in regards to the turnaround. So obviously anything marked with B, I didn't complete the lines because there's a lot of indirect lines in this circumstance, but anything with B is owned by the township. Anything marked with C, that chunk is owned by the Georgian Bay Land Trust, and obviously A, which is the existing road for Marina Village Drive, is owned by the Condo Corporation. We are aware that there's correspondence that has been received citing concerns about the wetlands and Potato Island wetlands. The current zoning on that one piece is EPW1, but I'm not a planning expert, and if there's questions specific to that, I'm going to have them referred to Mr. Whitland.
Well, before everybody starts asking questions, I'm going to just hit part B, the B section, which is between the development and the land trust. What is its current zoning? And I have a secondary question that I'm going to ask at the same time. My original understanding was that, I'll call it current dead end, was going to continue into the next development, but now I understand it, but if it did, it would be crossing land trust land, so that makes no sense to me at all. So if you wouldn't mind providing that clarification, then we can get into it.
Thank you, through Mayor Coetsier to council. So I'll address the latter part of the question first. Yes, there is a future connection that is a requirement of the next phase to the east, known as Trailside.
And that is a requirement, and it would cut through the land trust lands, and it'd be subject to an easement, and it's for emergency access as well as utilities, a water main, and I can't remember if there's a sewer line as well. But that was part of the original approval. So there would be works going in there that are already authorized through the planning decisions related to Oak Bay that pertain to that emergency access that would connect Trailside to the marina towns.
And does the land trust know that when they accepted that land?
That would, so I can't speak to that specific answer, but that was part of the, I'll call it the original approvals, as that is not a new item. That goes right back to the original draft plan approval for the development.
Thank you. Council, I know I interrupted a little bit with asking for some clarification, but Councillor Jarvis, we'll start with you, please.
Just pursuant to the mayor, through the mayor, pursuant to the mayor's comments and your response, Director, I've read the letter from David Flower, and I'm seeing his point of view, and it seems to be in conflict with what you've just stated. And I'm wondering now, in light of our conversation this morning about moving some discussions over to Cal for a better open discussion, including the public, maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea, so that things are clarified in the minds of people like David Flower and others who have very, very deep concerns about this proposal, in which in turn concerns me significantly. And as the mayor has just stated, you've got land trust land there that, I mean, I guess we have the power to provide an easement for emergency services, but does the land trust know that? And maybe we need their input on this as well. I have significant concerns, but now all of a sudden I'm thinking after your comments that, well, this should have been known way in advance anyway, because obviously it was in the original plans. Yet David Flower seems to indicate that the original plans showed a dead end, and the developer should have known at that time that there could be a conflict as a result of that being a dead end, and maybe they should have incorporated a turnaround at the time when they were building it. I'm concerned we've got a few things going on here at the same time, and there is significant seats for confusion as a result, and I think maybe further discussion is going to be required on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Ditto with Councillor Jarvis's comments, but there are also sort of concerns been made about what does this mean to other dead ends that may be in a similar situation. So there's and I really would like to understand what the property owner or the property owner, the Georgian Bay Land Trust, has to say about this. Do we have feedback? From what I'm hearing, no. And I'd like to know what their agreement was at the time. I'd also like to say that if there are other circumstances like this being pointed out, what allowances are being made by the developer? In other words, maybe one of these houses shouldn't have been built and you would have had a turnaround, as an example. And if there are other areas that may not be developed yet but need a turnaround, why aren't they being handled in that fashion as opposed to going over EP lands? It just, I'm having difficulty with this, and I'd like to see it discussed at Committee of the Whole. Thank you. Next month.
Thank you. I think there's been some concerns raised, and I'm going to go to the rest of the council if they have any other concerns, but it seems to me that there are enough questions that I'm not sure we have clear answers on that I think asking council to make a decision at this time may not be appropriate. Because I don't know, speaking for myself, and I believe at least a couple of other councillors, I don't feel fully informed on the status of some of this land. I see Councillor Graziano has joined us. Councillor Graziano.
Thank you, Worship. And I wonder what staff will be able to do in order to bring forward further information that's going to satisfy council and our appetite for further information. It's my understanding, what I've come to understand with respect to the request, is that this was originally in the plans. It was, for some strange reason, overlooked, and now the residents of Oak Bay are in a bit of a bind, especially in that back corner there. So I'm curious to know, if we do delay this and push to Cal for next month, what will staff bring forward that we don't already know now, excluding maybe a conversation with the land trust? Thank you.
Director Whitlow.
Through the mayor to council, just to be clear, and I hope I didn't misspeak. So the turnaround, or the T, proposed T that's proposed before you today, that was not part of the original plans. But what is part of the original draft plan approval, as approved by the OLT, or would have probably at that time would have been the LPAT, is the extension of that road all the way to Trailside. That's what's part of the original approval. This T is a variation of that to provide presumably a turnaround capacity in the interim.
And can you confirm to me the zoning of the lands in which that T would be constructed?
Certainly. So as the clerk indicated, they're EP1. So in terms of, from a land use perspective, the zoning generally prohibits development of those lands. However, the matter before council, from planning staff's opinion, would be for consideration under section 4.22 of the zoning bylaw, which allows for public uses in all zones. So here the request is for a piece of land that's owned by the township. The public use section of the zoning bylaw allows very clearly for various public utilities and roads and those sorts of things. It also allows for private infrastructure on lands of that nature. But that private infrastructure has to be a type that serves a public interest. So for example, pursuant to the 4.22 of the zoning bylaw, which allows for public uses in all zones, it also allows for private utilities, such as a cable utility or Bell, etc., to put its infrastructure there. So for example, if the proposal here was for a Bell switching building to serve the Oak Bay neighborhood, that's already a permitted use under the zoning bylaw. It doesn't waive examining environmental considerations and impacts, but from a permitted use standpoint, uses on municipally owned land that serve a public interest, even if the use itself may be of a somewhat private nature, but if there's a general public interest, that would be permitted. What would not be permitted, in planning staff's opinion, if the request before you today was for an abutting property owner who wished to put his pool and cabana and wanted a licensed occupation, from the township, that would not be a public use under the zoning bylaw. But if council is satisfied that this use serves a public interest, that could be considered under 4.22 and permitted.
A follow-up question, Your Worship.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. If I may, and I understand that the president of the condo corporation is present, I'm wondering whether or not we may allow her a moment to have provide her comments on this request as well.
We can do that if she indicates such a desire. Would you like to speak to them? Okay. Could you please? I'm afraid you have to do this officially. You got to come. You got to turn the mic on, and you have to identify yourself.
Test. Does that work? Thank you, everybody. I'm Laurie Russell. So I'm president of the Condominium Corp. So thank you for giving me the courtesy of clarifying a couple of things. With all due respect, I think there's some confusion about the emergency access. So Tony, we've talked about this in the past. In Bayside at the back, there's two different arteries. The emergency access route is a different artery than this laneway. So where there may be an emergency access well into the future, this is a different laneway, correct? So remember, yeah. And so whoever made mention of the fact that it should have been contemplated at the beginning, there is no doubt and I've presented it to Oak Bay as a very poor design in the sense that we've got a private roadway, and the reason this lady is here, Renee, she suffers the brunt of all the public traffic. And let me explain why this laneway is unlike any of our other laneways in our condominium or even maybe in the township, is that most laneways, you either turn left or you turn right. There's a physical distinction between the main roadway. What's unique in this design is it's an extension of the main roadway, which means that vehicles go along the roadway expecting to be able to turn around. And we're talking massive number of courier companies, propane, emergency vehicles. Everybody gets stuck because they believe it's just a straight through. They all end up on her driveway, okay? Which
Been
is
there, done that.
Oh, okay, thank you for admitting that. Right. So from a design perspective, it should never have been left in a state where the only option for all of, and the public that's going down there now is on the increase. We see it on the weekends. Everybody ends up in the same boat, and they end up on her driveway. They end up on lawns. I've got pictures of where people have been forced to go on private lawns, destroy those lawns. So unfortunately, the design has resulted in private property being used, and that's what we're trying to correct. But I have had conversations with the district. I have had conversations with Tony to clarify that well into the future, there could be some other emergency access, but it's not this artery. Yes, what the district has said, well into the future, depending on how those discussions go, we might be able to link the two and create almost like a crescent. But there's a lot of this, it's well into the future, and my engineers tell me that the design of this is not a throwaway because they have to shore that up in any case. So I've made sure that, 5 years out from now, 10 years out, whenever that might happen, that this investment, I'm still negotiating. I have another call with Oak Bay at 6 o'clock today. We're getting estimates in terms of what that build is, but it's frustrating. The houses are there right now. It's not as if there's any other option. We need to take the traffic off of private property. So I just wanted to clarify, it's a different artery than the one that you were speaking to.
Okay, thank you very much.
And, lastly, I also researched and understand that land, so we were sensitive to it being a Georgian Bay land trust. So Oak Bay's lawyers have looked into it, and they've clarified that no, it's township, that strip is township, and it was most likely part of the donation where the developer has to free up some land. So it's not Georgian Bay Land Trust, it's township land that was contributed to from the developer.
But the land, there's a strip that belongs to the township, and then there's a strip that belongs to the land trust.
And it's a very thin parcel.
Yeah. No. I'm going to go back to Councilman. Fully appreciate I'll call it the situation. Fully appreciate the logic of the proposal. But I think, at least for me, I appreciate the additional information because I want the clarification of what the consequences of this. Dare I call it design flaw as far as current use is concerned? All right, I'm going to go back to Councillor Jarvis, followed by Councillor Cooper, please. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate all the input. And to the mayor, just further to that, if I go back to Mr. Flowers' letter, he indicates that the original design, and maybe you can confirm this, the original design did allow for a turnaround, but it was never incorporated into the actual build. Is that correct?
Might as well stay there.
So in terms of talking to planners, my understanding is, and I've looked at all the other pockets in Oak Bay, they all have turnarounds, okay? How this managed to escape, and I'll be candid with you, Oak Bay's position is, and I talked to Greg Mariotti about this on Friday, because Oak Bay's position on this is they recognize the design flaw, but they were responsible for the initial design, implementing it, but also got it approved by the township. I dare say, lesson learned, I think to your point, that raising this to the surface will increase the sensitivity to ever finding this situation again. But there were various parties in approving those plans. How it got change from having a turnaround, because I've seen that in every other pocket of Oak Bay, so that would have been the starting point. They didn't add houses back there. They actually removed 3 houses. So it's not a case that they were trying to squeeze in another house. I just don't know how the turnaround got skipped. But it did get approved, unfortunately.
And just as follow-up, I think it would behoove us to have a little bit of that history so we know why the situation that you're currently in transpired. I would recommend that you start charging for the use of your driveway. I don't know if that's possible. But I'm very sympathetic to the cause, but I want to make sure we're doing this with the right historical perspective. And I would appreciate if we had time to maybe digest this a little bit further. Thank you.
Sorry, one last point. I hate to do this. The urgency on this is the following. You probably all know that we've been deep in negotiations with the builder on a number of things. Those negotiations have gone very well. We've got 2 more agreements in the works currently, but one of the time sensitivity is as follows. Back a few years ago, we negotiated what's called a minutes of settlement, which was the outcome of the land exchange, which allowed the switch from the villas down by the marinas to the towns. That change in design required a movement of the roadway that our condominium owned. Okay, so there had to be a process where we had to get all the homeowners involved in approving this swap of land. In return for the homeowners agreeing to that, the builder then agreed under duress to repave all our roadways. Our roadways have deteriorated faster than they should have. So starting next week, they're going to be replacing Country Trail, all of Country Trail, give us a new top coat, so we're getting better roads, and next year is Marina Village Drive. With the capital that we freed up, because otherwise the homeowners would have had to pay for those roads. By transferring that obligation back to the builder, they've been very decent about it. The fact that the builder now is replacing our roads, that has freed up capital that now we are directing to pave the laneways. Why those laneways were ever approved to be gravel and mud, okay, but it's been a nightmare. So we have 9 laneways that are gravel and mud. We're freeing up the capital from the roads to the laneways. That project starts next month. It's going on all of July. So this turnaround that you see on that diagram is actually an extension of how we're paving those laneways. So ideally, for cost purposes, okay, we integrate the 2 because we've got the manpower on site, we've got the engineers working, the design. So sadly, as much as I appreciate the need for more and more information, the cost of this initiative is going to skyrocket if we can't tie it into the work that's planned already for next month.
All right, thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor, and I understand the degree of urgency here. On the other hand, I have to say that there's still quite a bit of information that is sort of conjecture. There's other information that we haven't dealt with, which we need to discuss. Things like has been suggested a sign at the entrance to this roadway saying dead end, no turnaround, so that people aren't ending up down there in the first place. So there are things that can be done. It sounds like there are 9 other laneways that have to be dealt with. That's what I'm picking up here. And my goodness, that's another consideration if that is the case. So I think we need to get to the bottom of this, and we aren't there yet. So while there is a sense of urgency, certainly on our part as well, I think it's unwise to make a decision with only part of the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Predko, I did see your hand.
You did, and then I took it down because some of the Councillor Cooper's comments were included in the question I was going to ask. I mean, I don't really think I have anything more I can add to this discussion. I was going to, pose the question around signage and whether or not that would assist. I know that's not a solution, and it's not, but whether it could stop 2 cars from coming down the road would be a help. The only other question I have is the work that you're working on. I think you said 9 laneways for repaving. If we can't reach a conclusion today on this turnaround, can this work be phased in such a way that that laneway is done, with the turnaround is done last, to make sure you try to incorporate a decision that doesn't come today, but comes as soon as we can make it?
We're just in the process of scheduling the work. So Oak Bay's coming in to do the main roadway. We're waiting for, that's promised to be done by June 15th. And so we're just in the process of sequencing the order of which laneway. So it's a smart question. The answer is yes. Depending on how this would go, we would prefer to get it done as part of the same laneway project. None of the other laneways have a similar situation. So yes, we would schedule this towards the latter part of July in order to squeeze it in before all the vehicles, the manpower disappears.
I mean, I'm not disfavor of approving this. I just, again, there's this question of some of the information that we don't have, and I don't want to prolong this forever, but there are some lingering questions.
I think, if I may, given those circumstances, is that if council chooses to defer, refer, whatever one we ended up with, postpone the decision, we may want this to come back to council early July as opposed to committee of the whole, because that would just push it off an extra month.
That would have been my follow-up comment.
So far, I understand that there's a couple of questions and a bit of history we'd like to better understand. But I think that that would be my recommendation if council wants to defer their decision, that we defer it to the subsequent council meeting, not committee of the whole. Councillors, any further comment or question? Councillor Hazelton.
In the images that the clerk displayed on this, it looked like there was massive tree coverage on the proposed area of the T. Do we have a sense of how many large trees have to be destroyed to be able to provide this?
I do not have that answer at this time, but I can find out when the report comes back. It's hard to tell with the tree coverage sometimes if it's large trees or just large branches and foliage.
Yeah, I mean, my frustration on this topic, on one hand, yes, I understand that the community wants to take advantage of logistics, but you know, we have just heard about this. We've only had a couple of days to look at it. The community have jumped all over it with comments that perhaps we weren't aware of. And when we look at it, I guess what I found concerning is, you know, the diagram on the staff report shows a circle where this activity would take place, but it doesn't show us explicitly that this is an EP zone. And I think that should have been brought vividly to our attention for consideration. I'm just uncomfortable that we're sitting here feeling like we have to make a decision where there seems to be a lot more information to consider than what has been presented. So I would prefer to defer this to additional discussion at another meeting. Thank you.
I'm getting a sense of that from a number of comments. And so just to confirm with our clerk, it'd be a deferral if we call for that, or versus a referral. I mean, we were asking for additional information.
It would be a deferral, and
Okay.
then it'll come back next month with more information.
Thank you. Councilor Graziano, I briefly saw your hand.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a question, but I'm just gonna hold off. If we're gonna defer, it is gonna, and to your point, I would prefer that it come back to council rather than to Cal.
All right, thank you. Councilor Predko.
If the report was earlier than our next scheduled council meeting, would it be feasible to have a special council meeting to discuss it in a matter of expediency?
That option always exists if we feel that if a matter comes up that we would like to have decided before the next council, we can always call an emergency council meeting. Councilor Hazelton.
Could we ask our president of the association to give us an idea of the timeline, the last possible timeline, to be able to include this as part of a package?
We're due to meet with the contractor for the laneway project, so no date has been set. What we are asking them to do is be ready to start for July 7th, and they've said it'll probably take a month to get all of that done. So assuming they say yes to July 7th, which we've not had yet confirmed, we're trying to get that confirmed now, that would extend, in this case, to the first week of August, by the sounds of it.
So if you had a decision by our July meeting, which I don't know the date of, but July 8th, perhaps?
Oh, July 7th is the council meeting. July 8th is the planning. I mean, so July 7th, Monday, July 7th is our next council meeting.
Do you think that would work from? Okay.
That would work.
Thank you.
I think my question was answered by just further through the mayor. The note provided to us by David Flower, he's very knowledgeable, and I think we've really got to address his concerns as part of our consideration down the road here. But yeah, so if it works for you guys, I think if we can get more information on this and get our decision in time for you guys to make your decisions, that works for me.
Thank you.
Sorry, on this point, would it work? I know David Flower quite well. So what would you recommend? Is it better that I pick up the phone and have a conversation with David to explain it, or should I leave that up to the township?
You're free to have a conversation with anybody else who's willing to talk with you.
Okay.
Anytime. We can't control that. Staff have heard our request for information, and they will seek out answers for us to help us make I call it a better informed decision come July 7th.
Perfect. Thank you.
Council. Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Predko. Be it resolved that the license of occupation application for MVLCC 64 for a turnaround land to be built adjacent to 144 Marina Village Drive be deferred. All those in favor of deferral? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and that is carried. You got to tick the right box. Okay. And next, we're going to go over to Ms. Radigan is going to present on the Prudent Investor Standard Admissible Investments Analysis and Options. And I'm going to hand it over. Before I do, Councillor Predko, can you be chair for the next 3 minutes? Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is, I believe, Ms. Radigan and Prudent Investment. And Ms. Radigan, could you take it away?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to members of council. The purpose of this report is to provide council with the additional information with regards to Prudent Investor, the Prudent Investor Standard for municipal investments, and the next steps required if the township wishes to join the One Investment Board as a participating municipality under the Prudent Investment Standard. The township currently invests in various legal list investments, which is the default investment authority for all municipalities. This includes the township's bank account, as well as One Investment's high interest savings account and the Canadian equity portfolio. In 2024, the township earned approximately $292,000 on the high interest savings account and approximately $867,000 on the Canadian equity portfolio, which is a very rare occurrence. I think you've heard me say that through the year-end financial statement presentations. In 2025, the performance of the equity portfolio has significantly slowed, resulting in very little investment income to date. The narrow set of investment choices available under the legal list tends to limit potential returns, and more importantly, it limits diversification. As Canada represents only 3% of the global investment universe, expanding the investment universe to include foreign equities and fixed income through investment under the Prudent Investment Standard can improve both investment choices as well as diversification potential. And I also did want to state there's really no rush to make a decision today in terms of moving forward. This is an opportunity for council to discuss and have open dialogue in terms of which way to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will open this up to council if any councillors have any questions or comments for Ms. Radigan. Councillor Jarvis, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through the temporary chair. Keep it that way, temporary.
No, I'm just getting used to this.
Acknowledging, and I think we all fully understand, as I said earlier, that the investment market right now is all over the board. And I guess if you're a real speculator, that's a lot of fun. But if you want long-term investments with return, this is a very difficult time. You indicated that our high interest savings account did quite well. If we basically remove ourselves from the process by entering into this agreement, so that wouldn't allow us to take funds and put them into something that we felt was a little bit more, I'll say blue chip for the sake of a better term, say a high interest savings account, as opposed to daring the equity markets as they currently stand. Are we restricting ourselves more by entering into this agreement than we would otherwise be with our current situation?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Jarvis. No, not at all. That's actually a great question. So part of the agreement requires the township to identify monies not immediately required. So with our current state in terms of updating our asset management plan, we currently don't exactly know how much money we're going to need, let's say, to replace our roads currently or replace our buildings. So as a result of that, we can be very conservative in terms of what we decide to invest in prudent investor oh man, I'm having a hard time with that one, with the prudent investment standard versus what remains within the HISA account or the Canadian equities account. That is, all of that will come back to council, where we will outline within the policy what funds are not required immediately, and what type of risk council is willing to proceed with.
Go ahead. Just to follow up to that then, how much flexibility do we have on a sort of day-to-day basis if we decide we set aside funds for our own use, shorter term, the longer term goes to this fund? If at some point we realize we need some of those monies, how easy is it to access them? It's not like a GIC where you're stuck or anything like that, is it? Or how are we committed in that way?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Jarvis. My understanding, based on my discussions with staff at LAS and through One Investment, we can do that. However, the township is required to review on an annual basis our policy, as well as ensure whether we want to increase or decrease our funds that are immediately required. So that is entirely open. How long that process takes, if it's not within that annual review, I'm unclear about, but I understand it is possible.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor or ex-chair Predco. Councillor Jarvis, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, one final follow-up. How comfortable are you with this?
Thank you, Mayor MacTier, through to Councillor Jarvis. I've had several discussions with One Investment staff, and I understand the report that's brought forward. I worked on it with their staff, and it is very conservative from what I've been advised, because they don't want to come forward with promises that they can't deliver. But at the end of the day, when you look at the stats and you look at comparing what past investment has been compared to what it could be, it's either equal or greater if you were to go with prudent investment status. In the long term, I do believe it is a good decision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Predko.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Just a couple of questions, and I think one of them is just a little bit rewording of the question that I think Councillor Jarvis had. If we participate in the prudent investor approach, and we have allocated our not immediately necessary funds, can we be kind of half in, half out? Like, can we maintain our own portfolio from the legal list as well as put funds in and try to, you know, it's maybe a bit of a hedge in terms of what their investment risk tolerance is versus what council's risk tolerance is?
Through you, Mayor Coutier, to Councillor Predko. That is my understanding, and those are my hopes in terms of proceeding. I would like to create a policy that allows us to be more flexible in terms of what we put towards prudent investor and what we maintain on our own, simply because we are at a little bit of a crossroads in terms of not knowing how much we're going to need for condition assessments, for repairs and maintenance of facilities, as well as the roads need study that we'll be completing in-house. So I would prefer to keep a larger amount of funds more accessible, but have longer term funds, which will not be to the extent what we currently have in our investment portfolio with one investment, but a smaller amount is what I'm hoping to outline within our policy to go towards a prudent investor.
Okay, and then just the final follow-up question. The one investment group is the founding group of municipalities that joined into this. And could you just refresh my memory? The District of Muskoka is a member of the one, but had there been conversations to have a specific Muskoka investment board, have them withdraw from the one and break it out? Or is it the intent that the one investment board will just become larger and larger as more municipalities move to this approach?
Through you, Mayor Coutier, to Councillor Predko. The one idea about becoming your own prudent investor, you need a certain dollar value of assets. The District of Muskoka could not go it alone. So the City of Barrie has created its own investment board. City of Toronto has created its own investment board, but the majority of other municipalities just don't have the funds to go it alone. And from my understanding, creating your own investment board is actually quite costly.
Sure. Okay, thank you. And I mean, I think it's probably a good low risk sort of diversification of our management of the funds. So I'm happy to see this move forward as we go through the process. Thank you.
I just want to add, you know, the District of Muskoka was one of the founders back in 2020 of this, and I'm going to express this very roughly, if you will, or crudely or something, but they have three pots of money. One is the investment that's in the market. The other one is with the same group of people, but it's like savings accounts where you're going to access at any time. And the third pot is the one that the District of Muskoka have themselves, their own bank accounts. And they balance them based on the projected needs over the coming year or two as to what should be accessible now and what is longer term money. Because some of the monies that we're setting aside for investments we expect to be making in buildings in 2040 or something like that.
Yeah. Thank you for that clarification. That's what I was hoping to hear. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? And thank you very much, Councillor Predko, for being chair for a few minutes. Appreciate that. Yeah. You introduced yourself, did you? I have moved by Councillor Cooper, second by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved that staff work with One Investment on the steps necessary to join the One Joint Investment Board as a participating municipality under the Prudent Investor Standard, and report back to Council with an appropriate investment policy, the One Joint Investment Board or One JIB agreement, and authorizing enabling bylaw. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. That ends the staff reports, and we have now reconsideration of motion regarding reimbursement for Ronald Denny. And Councillor Graziano, we're going to need a seconder because the original seconder is not part of our meeting today.
Well, Your Worship, if I may for a moment, the seconder, the whole impetus behind this reconsideration was that the seconder could provide his vote. As we recall in last month's council meeting, it was a 3-3 split with Councillor Bocek not present. In speaking with Councillor Bocek, he wanted to put his vote forward, and hence the request now, given the circumstance with Councillor Bocek being not present. I asked the clerk whether it would be prudent to pass the required majority vote now in order to allow for Councillor Bocek to chime in on the final vote next month and defer, or do we wait next month, and is there a way or a mechanism in which to bring this back next month so Councillor Bocek can have his vote on this matter?
Ms. Way.
A motion of reconsideration can only be brought forward at the next regularly scheduled meeting, so that is today. If the motion to, I have to double check if no decision was made, what the outcome would be. Potentially, you could, if you had the 2/3 majority to pass the reconsideration and then defer the actual motion to next month.
Which was what I was somewhat suggesting we potentially do as a workaround to allow Councillor Bocek a final vote on the matter.
If that's the case, then I'd first seek out from council if anybody was willing to second your motion. If somebody's willing to second it, then I would see whether 2/3 of the council, or in other words, 4 of us, would be willing in favor of reconsidering this motion. So step 1, and I'm waiting for Clerk Way to tell me I'm wrong, but step 1 would be is any of the council willing to be the seconder on this motion for reconsideration? I see Councillor Hazelton. So the motion, should I read the whole motion, Councillor, or have you've read it all? Because the first vote I'm taking is whether you want to consider this motion for reconsideration. And then I guess I would take another vote about postponing, or would that all be part of it? Separate vote. Okay, so the first vote in this motion is moved by Councillor Graziano, second by Councillor Hazelton. And after the 3 whereases, it reads, now therefore be it resolved that Council reconsider Resolution C 2025-133 from May 5, 2025 regarding the reimbursement of $559.86 for fire response and AMPS charges incurred by Ronald Denny. So my question to Council is, all those in favor of reconsideration? I have 1, I have 2, I have 2 votes. So that all those against reconsideration, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4. So that the reconsideration vote is defeated. Therefore, we don't have to go on to any other discussion. All right.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, I am under new business. I had another matter that was presented to the clerk for this month's council meeting that did not make it to the agenda. I had sent a subsequent email requesting an update on it being posted to the agenda for this month. You were CC'd on it, as was our clerk. And I just wanted to confirm whether or not we are able to discuss this today, as it was presented in advance of the window closing. So I'm curious to know whether or not we will be bringing the issue forward, and it pertains to, of course, the white paper on floating accommodations.
Over to our clerk.
I did receive that correspondence for new business. It did not include a seconder, which I did email and ask for a seconder. Without a seconder, I can't put it on the agenda. So it is not on today's meeting.
And just to confirm, I'm sorry, through you, Your Worship, to the clerk, was emailed to my township website, or excuse me, my township email address. Can you clarify on which email address? given that I'm out of the country and staff and council are aware that I'm out of the country, our policies do not allow me to access my township emails.
Clerk Wright.
Municipal staff are only meant to correspond with members of council on council items through their official township email account, regardless of what email account may be the initiating address. Councilors are able to have access out of the country to their municipal accounts if they notify staff of the exact times and countries they are going to, in which case we can have the security parameters change for that time frame.
And that was done in last council meeting. Thank you. May I then make a recommendation that we bring this from the floor and waive the rules by majority vote as well, so we can get this matter in front of council?
Clerk Way, can you advise the procedures of that, please?
If council wishes to waive the rules of procedure to permit a new business item regarding floating accommodations, they would need Councilor Graziano would need a seconder for that, but also you would need 2/3 majority.
Okay. Council, I believe, are you aware of the, okay. I don't know. And indulge me for a minute or two, please. All right, Council, this is for your information. The Councilor Graziano had sent forward a report and a motion to our clerk, and I'm going to read the draft motion, and then following that, I will just this what I'm reading to you now is not for a vote, but just for your information. What Councilor Graziano initiated correspondence that said, whereas the floating accommodations position paper of April 2025 provides detailed guidance to Ontario municipalities on the regulations of floating accommodations, highlighting critical legal and environmental challenges. And whereas the document identifies significant gaps in current provincial and federal frameworks that municipalities are best positioned to address through zoning, land, and use bylaws, and whereas the paper recommends proactive municipal action based on successful case studies and legal precedents, such as the Glassbell versus Ontario decision, and whereas Georgian Bay Township has already taken steps to addressing floating accommodation and has an interest in providing intermunicipal collaboration on this issue, on promoting intermunicipal collaboration on this issue. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the council receive the floating accommodations position paper May 2025 for informational purposes, and that the clerk be directed to circulate the document to other Ontario municipalities via the civic information package, and that the clerk be further directed to forward the document and this resolution to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for consideration and potential provincial advocacy. So that was the draft motion, which is part of the report that Councilor Graziano had initially forwarded without a seconder. So the first question will be, and I'll need a seconder for, I'll read this. This is the motion that will be now in front of us. And let me just get this down for a moment. This will be a motion in front of us, and if somebody's willing to second it, then I will call the vote on this particular motion. And that would be moved by Councilor Graziano. Be it resolved that Council waive the rules of procedure to permit the addition of agenda item 11B, floating accommodations position paper dated May 2025. Is there anybody willing to second that motion? Councilor Hazelton. And then the question is, if I need 4 people in favor, no, I need 2/3. Is that 4 or 5? That's
And I'm going to request a registered vote, please. Thank you.
Councilor Graziano would like a registered vote. So all those in favor, Clerk Wave, would you please? Yes. Sorry, discussion.
Discussion, please.
I apologize. Go ahead, please, Councilor Pretko.
We don't have a copy of the position paper in front of us, so it will be difficult to make an informed vote whether or not we want to agree with it and forward it to the other levels of government. I suspect there's lots of good things in it, but not having read it, I feel concerned.
Yeah.
I can't really bring
fair
a
enough.
conclusion to that.
I mean, for everybody's information, I have forwarded that position paper to the 46, I think it's 46 mayors or heads of council that are on my list who I've been emailing on floating accommodations for the last 2 years. So the circulation is already begun on this paper. Okay. And I'd be very happy to forward a copy to council. Councilor Jarvis.
Thank you. I would love a copy of correspondence so far. I'm curious to know if we were to move down the road of approving this motion as it stands, are we then duplicating work that is already being done by our municipality and other, I guess, surrounding municipalities on this issue? Are we just compounding a workload, or is it in line with stuff we're already doing, or is it in conflict, or how does it line up with what we're doing so far?
Well, we're sort of getting in discussion of the motion, but not this motion, but once we have 4 votes. But it would, I would argue, it would supplement what's already being done.
I would be prepared to second the motion.
No, it's already been seconded.
I want to third it.
Okay. So I'm now going to ask if council is willing to waive the rules of procedure to permit the addition of this agenda item, and Clerk Way will take the vote.
Let the record show Councilor Graziano has requested a recorded vote. Councilor Graziano, how do you vote?
Yes to bringing this back and discussing it. Thank you.
Councilor Hazelton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilor Cooper, how do you vote?
Yes, to bringing it back after we have information.
Councilor Pretko, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilor Jarvis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Coutier, how do you vote?
Yes.
Let the record show the motion's carried.
Thank you. So now, now the motion in front of, this is a report that nobody has received. So, but I think that, hang on 1 second here.
Your Worship, if I may, I have circulated it to council via email today, just now, both documents, the original motion as well as the supplement attachment that was sent to the clerk.
There was that in one email or two, because I received an email that
I was in 2 separate emails coming from my personal account. Unfortunately, again, I cannot log in via the council portal.
All right, I can confirm now that I have received both of your email accounts. Sorry, emails, not your account. All right. Councilor Graziano, do you wish to make a brief introduction to this, even though I think some of it's already been made?
Sure, and I'm happy to, just for contextual purposes, the floating home floating accommodation coalition had contacted me in respect to this, asking whether or not we could circulate this amongst the council information package. and again, it's the Floating Accommodations Not Vessels Coalition that has been in collaboration and working collaboration with our township amongst many other municipalities, mayors, federal, provincial, bylaw, all levels of government, attempting to try to ensure that floating accommodations are addressed on our waterways and perhaps even so far as removed. I'm not going to speak on their behalf. They are their own coalition, but they asked if we could circulate this via the council information package so other councillors can become aware of the issues, as well as potentially support our issues that we see every day as we travel northbound on the 400 through Wabashine. And then lastly, they've also asked if we could request that our township, vis-a-vis the clerk, share this amongst AMO as well, and try to broadcast and make it as visible as possible to all the municipalities within Ontario as to what these things are and some current gaps with regards to regulations on floating accommodations. So the motion was brought forward on my behalf, and as it stands, Council has the original written motion along with their white paper, and there should be enough information in both to really identify what the intent of the motion is. But I'm happy to answer any questions if Council has any clarification or requires any further clarification, rather. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Council, I know it's a little difficult to discuss this without something in front of you other than what you just received. But I'm quite willing to make my own comments on this at some point, but I'd like to normally hand it over to Councillor Hazelton, for instance, at this point for his comments.
Thank you for that. So I haven't read the report, so I'm not going to offer personal opinions on it yet. But I will offer that if our mayor has already circulated this to his key contacts who are dealing with floating accommodation, and there seems to be a sizable number, that it warrants continued exposure to other potential stakeholders in this matter. And I would be prepared to, given that the resolution is to receive the report and forward it on to other communities and AMO, I would be prepared to support that.
All right, thank you. Okay, Councillor Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I've had an opportunity to speed read through the position paper, and it appears, in my opinion, to be aligned with the council's previous opinions and the township's position on floating homes, and I don't see any factual concerns. So I appreciate the report, and if it has been circulated through our mayor's channels, I think I'm comfortable at this moment with what we're discussing today, although it would have been nice to have more time for consideration. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, given the frustrations we've had to deal with in trying to legislate anything in this regard, I think anything we can do to promote our position and to gain further support from AMO, particularly in the communities that are part of that, I think would be beneficial to us. So I'm happy to proceed.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
I'll be very brief. Ditto to the last two councillors, and just say that I have every confidence in Councillor Predko's speed reading abilities. So I'm going to say that I think we should go ahead, and especially given that our mayor has already sent out this information, we need to make sure that we get all the strong positions forward on this particular matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments. One is I fully I want to state that I fully respect all the work that's gone into this position paper. And I know that, for instance, township staff were involved with it, as were staff from other the Parks Canada, some of the other municipalities, the OPP, obviously the coalition themselves, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody, and I apologize to them. So this has been thoroughly reviewed and worked on the last couple of years, and I hugely respect all that effort. And I know the final edit was done in May, and as I had no hesitation on my part to share this paper with the 3.5 dozen or whatever mayors that I've been communicating with over the last couple of years on this. And I can tell you that I've already received responses from some of them being quite appreciative, because what it does, this report, is it not only is a nice overview of I'll call it the history of the file, but it also gives links to the bylaws, the zoning bylaw amendments that were passed both in Severn and in the Township of Georgian Bay. And it gives other references in which people are free to follow. So I think it was a very useful, well prepared paper. I am a little disappointed or frustrated in that it did not get on our agenda because of the appropriate procedures not being followed by Councillor Graziano in communication. And I'm also frustrated because it makes reference to
Point of order, Your Worship.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the incorrect procedures used? Can you elaborate as to what you intended on meeting in that?
That you were not able to use the township emails as you had not informed them of your travels.
Your Worship, if you recall, I did inform staff as you were present while I did so at the conclusion of last council meeting. You were actually sitting there while I told our clerk that I'd be traveling to Europe and specifying countries, at which point she advised that IT would be aware. Now, in retrospect, perhaps I should have sent a follow-up email, but given that I was hopping a flight immediately after that meeting, you can understand where the concern was. And in fact, numerous times in communications where you were included, I also cited that I'm working and that I don't have access from here. So throughout the whole course of this time, staff and council have been aware that these challenges have been persistent. If someone wanted to reach out to me via the phone to say where and what countries you're in and what your itinerary looks like, I would have been more than happy to provide it to them.
I think what we can all learn from this is if you're going on a trip, you need to advise in writing. I'll say to everybody, you need to advise the township of where you're going to be, which countries, and so that the communication can be allowed. The motion did not have a seconder, and therefore, until it has a seconder, it's not at the agenda. But that aside, I was also concerned about the motion itself, in that, and one of the lines says here, and that the clerk, one of the directions is, and that the clerk be directed to circulate documents to other Ontario municipalities via the civic information package. And there is not a civic information package. And I presume that when you say CIP, you're referring to the council information package. And if so, that is where we receive correspondence. We do not distribute correspondence. So the agenda, if council approves this motion, and I have no difficulty, by the way, with approving the motion, other than we need to change the second line of the now therefores, and that the what wording would work for you, Madam Clerk?
I guess I just need to seek clarification. If the intention was for it to be on the council information package, so this council at this table has officially received it, we can add it to the next package. I believe the intention is for this to be circulated to AMO and all of the member municipalities, which is the wording that I would have used.
Okay. So if we simply remove that second line and saying that the clerk be the clerk be directed to forward the document and this resolution to the Association of Municipalities and other municipalities in the province or something, and member municipalities.
Point of order, Your Worship.
Councilor Graziano.
Just on the note with respect to travel, because you had brought it up, and I just want to make sure that it's addressed accordingly. Can the clerk provide us with a specific reference to a policy whereby it says that? Because if memory serves me correctly, we did not pass a policy, a technology policy for council. So perhaps I'm confused, and if so, I do appreciate some guidance. Can the clerk advise as to what policy specifically are we referring to with respect to having to share itineraries in order to receive access to our emails?
Staff were not prepared to answer questions on any travel policies today, and therefore I won't have a response prepared.
Understood. Thank you.
All right. So let's get back to the motion at hand. And it reads, whereas the floating accommodation position paper provides detailed guidance in Ontario municipalities on the regulation of floating accommodations, highlighting critical legal and environmental challenges. And whereas the document identifies significant gaps in current provincial and federal frameworks that municipalities are best positioned to address through zoning and land use bylaws. And whereas the paper recommends proactive municipal action based on successful case studies and legal precedents such as the Glassbell versus Ontario decision, and whereas Georgian Bay Township has already taken steps to address the floating accommodation and has an interest in promoting intermunicipal collaboration on this issue, now therefore be it resolved that Council receives the floating accommodations position paper of May 2025 for informational purposes, and that the clerk be directed to forward the document and this resolution to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and member municipalities for consideration and potential provincial advocacy. Okay. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. And now we're going on to bylaws. And our first bylaw for consideration is moved by Councillor Graziano, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved that Council enact bylaw 2025-047, the procurement policy. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Predko, seconded by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved that Council enact bylaw 2025-048, the 2025 final tax rate. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay. And now, closed session. So I moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Graziano. Whereas Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, provides authority for councils of municipalities to close a meeting or parts of a meeting to the public if the subject matter pertains to a matter identified in Section 239(2). And whereas the Council of the Township of Georgian Bay deems it necessary to close this portion of the meeting in order to address matters under the following sections of 239(2). 1. Honey Harbor Public Launch Ramp. 2. Council closed minutes of May 5. And 3. Legal files listing. Now be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Georgian Bay moves into closed council session at 11:54 a.m. All those in favor? All right, and that means we're moving into closed. And it probably means that we want to sign off or just leave this and sign in separately. What's your preferred procedure at this moment?
For those who are in the council chambers, you can stay signed in and leave your computers at the desk. For those that are attending remotely, you will need to sign out of Zoom and sign into Teams.
And then we're moving into the other room, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a request for lunch.
Okay. All right, so we are back in the public portion of our meeting. So the first thing, and for those online, Councillor Hazelton is in the room. He just has not signed on. But I have moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Georgian Bay rise from closed session at 12:50 p.m. All those in favor? And 1, 2, 3, we've got 4 votes and 5 votes. Okay, that is carried. Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved that Council adopts May 5, 2025 Council closed minutes as circulated. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Again, 5 votes. Moved by Councillor Hazelton, not seconded by Councillor Graziano because I do not see him. So seconded by Councillor Jarvis. Be it resolved that Council adopts bylaw 2025-049 to confirm the proceedings of the June 2nd, 2025 council meeting. All those in favor? And again, I have 5 votes. And away we go. Moved by Councillor Predko, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved the council is now adjourned at 12:51 p.m. until July 7th, 2025 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor? And I have 5 votes. That is carried. And we'll see everyone tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock for Planning Council. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.